We're celebrating the arrival of Hades on Xbox Game Pass on August 13th, with 10 other top roguelikes, roguelites, and just vaguely rogue-curious games already available on the library, just to keep you going until it lands on your Xbox hard drive.
First off though, just in case you missed all the hype first time round, we're going to be taking a trip back to ancient Greece to fill you in on what Hades is all about. This gorgeous roguelike stars a sardonic young prince named Zagreus who is thoroughly sick of his life in the underworld, so he's making a break for it. Using your mythological weapon of choice, as well as whatever boons you can convince your relatives from Olympus to bestow, you'll have to hack and slash your way up through each layer of the fiery depths if you want to make it out. Which, as luck would have it, is incredibly good fun, with so much variety built into the different power-up combinations that you never know quite what the next run will bring. From the seemingly endless amount of brilliant dialogue to the luscious art style, excellent music, and perfectly balanced combat, literally every element of Hades is top notch. Give it a go once it hits Game Pass and you'll quickly see why it's already the stuff of legends.
But if you just can't wait, we'll start off with another game that features the Lord of the Underworld, Neon Abyss. Rather than trying to escape from Hades' domain, here you're playing as part of his specially selected task force, with the singular goal of taking out the rest of the old gods. And rather than sticking to the ancient Greek setting where you'd expect to find Zeus and co chilling, the whole thing is transported to a hellish future world, where no one is nearly as hot as everyone in Hades seems to be. But that disappointment aside, Neon Abyss is a frantic 2D shooter full of weird and wonderful weapons for you to pick up as you wage your war against the gods. The carnage really begins when you realise that the power-ups can all be combined, leading to guns that fire bouncing bombs and cat-shaped pistols which shoot poisonous fish bones.
Slay the Spire is a game which mixes roguelike structure with deck building, card-based gameplay. That might sound like a niche mix, but it ends up delivering the sort of fast-paced, tactical fun that can be almost impossible to put down. You start each run playing as one of 3 characters and working with a randomly generated bunch of cards. Naturally, you'll start trying to build a deck that plays to your character's strengths or according to a certain game plan, but you're always at the mercy of whatever new cards and enemies happen to be thrown your way as you ascend the tower. It's kind of like trying to play poker with a hand that's always changing in the middle of an earthquake. Do your best to stick to your strategy, but be prepared to start making things up as you go along too. Because it forces you to constantly experiment with new combos and stratagems, Slay the Spire never allows itself to get stale or for you to get too comfortable in any one approach.
But if you're looking for a roguelike that's really light on its feet, Dead Cells might be the way to go. You'd think that being decapitated would slow down a fella, but the recently reanimated hero of this Metroidvania-style game moves at quite some pace, tearing through the beautifully designed levels at a speed which makes you feel like a true badass as you go. At least it does until you run face first into a bunch of spikes or a particularly uncompromising enemy. But even that won't slow you down for long, with each new run promising a new set of levels and a different array of deadly equipment for you to get your hands on. Plus a huge selection of buffs and modifiers so that every run feels different from the last.
What do you need to make a game as ludicrously fun as Enter the Gungeon? Well, guns. Lots of guns. Guns that fire flaming skulls, and guns that fire laser beams, guns that are actually flaming pitchforks, and guns that are plain old shotguns. Levels made out of shell casings and enemies who are shaped like bullets and who fire more bullets at you with the guns that they're holding in their little bullety hands. Just so many guns, all over the place. Enter the Gungeon was made with a 5-year-old's enthusiasm for anything that goes bang, and that energy is absolutely infectious as you blast your way from one ridiculous level to the next, combining the fast-paced action of a classic arcade shooter with the procedurally generated unpredictability of a roguelike. And then it throws in a bunch more guns just for good measure.
Children of Morta is a game which would most certainly get the Dominic Toretto seal of approval, and not just because its combat is often fast and furious, because at heart, it's all about family. You play as the Bergsons, a clan of 6 who have been tasked with fending off the corruption which threatens to infect the rest of their land. Naturally, doing so will mean cleaving your way through dungeon after dungeon, filled with fantastical bad guys. Because roguelikes got a roguelike, you know? Each family member has a different fighting style, from Linda's elegant bow and arrow work to Joey's mighty hammer, a young Kevin who uses his anger management issues to become increasingly effective at stabbing people in the face. Seriously, we need to talk about Kevin. In the downtime between each run, you get to see how they all interact as a family, adding a real sense of emotional investment to your next death-defying expedition.
Scourgebringer is the sort of slash and dash 2D game which can look like absolute chaos to the untrained eye, with bullets flying all directions, enemies pouring in from everywhere, and somewhere buried in the middle of it all, a character being controlled by the player. That's you, by the way. But once you learn the rhythm of Scourgebringer's frantic action, the whole thing becomes kind of balletic. Slowly you'll learn to dash in, smack your enemy in the face, and slip out of range again before they can even get a shot away, like a tiny sword-wielding Muhammad Ali. The cyclical style of a roguelike game is perfect for creating this kind of muscle memory, and Scourgebringer is an immensely satisfying version of it, slowly turning you into a ninja-like bundle of twitch reflexes and split-second decision-making. By the time you've made it through a handful of runs, you'll be truly ready to bring some serious Scourge.
To use a football commentator's cliche, Moonlighter really is a game of two halves. By day, you are a simple shopkeeper in a charming management sim, where your time is spent selecting stock and fiddling with prices to try and keep your customers happy. And then by night, you descend into the mystical dungeons below, to fight monsters and find more stuff to sell in your store. Which is as good a business model as any, I guess. Even when magical dungeons are involved, becoming a successful entrepreneur is all about risk assessment. Do you go descend another level and risk losing all the loot you've collected so far, or quit while you're ahead? Do you take that valuable cursed item and risk corrupting the rest of your swag, or save room for more, less supernaturally tainted wares? They're all tough decisions, but if you want to hack and slash your way to the top of the industry, these are the sort of choices you have to make.
The city in which Streets of Rogue takes place is described as being shaped like a lasagna because of its vertically stacked structure, and to be honest, that's probably the least amazingly ridiculous thing about it. The game's story is set in motion when the evil mayor bans chicken nuggets. The horror. Creating a vibrant black market trade and also giving you a perfect reason to go after him. While you try to make it up to his stronghold at the top, you'll need to use whatever abilities your current character has to complete a variety of randomly generated tasks. The characters range from scientists, comedians, and investment bankers to zombies, werewolves, and gorillas. The tasks range from collecting documents and pressing buttons to taking down drug kingpins and exterminating ghosts. Because it has absolutely no interest in making any sense at all, Streets of Rogue always has something new, bizarre, and utterly hilarious to show you, no matter how many times you die and start all over again.
Monster Train is a lot like Slay the Spire, except you're the one in the Tower of Control, trying to stop everyone else from climbing it. Oh, and also the tower is a train, and you play as the forces of hell. But apart from those two things, it is very similar, because you're using your cards to defend rather than attack. Monster Train is much more about forward thinking and clear planning, with the sort of improvisatory strategizing you do on your way up the spire. That being said, the randomized onslaught of different enemies, bosses, cards, and buffs will still keep things constantly on shuffle, with no run ever quite playing out how you'd planned it. Fortunately, the forces of heaven and hell are imagined in such singular fashion that you'll constantly be starting over just to see what strange creations the train will take you to this time around.
Finally, we have Darkest Dungeon, a game that's every bit as bright and cheerful as its name suggests. Did you ever wonder about the mental toll which dungeon crawling must take? Sealed off in a series of claustrophobic chambers, stalked by death and danger at every turn, never knowing what new horror the next room will unleash? Well, Darkest Dungeon has thought about this a lot. Each time you set out on a new run, you'll have to keep a careful eye on your party's stress levels. Push them too far and they can develop highly unhelpful conditions like paranoia or masochism, and of course they may just end up having a good old-fashioned heart attack. But if you can keep their nerves together, you'll find a shockingly deep roguelike RPG, with a distinctive art style, ingenious combat system, and tons of secrets to discover. But that is a very big if.
Hades might currently be the hottest roguelike in town, but will have plenty of competition for the crown when it splashes its way onto Xbox Game Pass for console, cloud, and PC on August 13th. Shout out your favourite roguish titles in the comments below, and feel free to subscribe and ring the bell for all the latest Xbox info. Bye!